Okay friends, let's get started on this right rear caliper. First what we need to do is remove our 19mm lug nuts. Safely remove your wheel. Next what we're going to do is we're going to follow the emergency brake cable and you're going to find this bracket. Remove this 10mm headed bolt. Awesome. So next what we're going to do is we're going to remove this banjo bolt. The banjo bolt has brake fluid inside, or it's coming through the brake hose into the caliper. So you want to make sure you have hand protection, eye protection, and of course a collection bucket. Break that free, snug it up just barely so it's not leaking. We're going to do the same thing to the caliper slider bolts. To do that I'm going to use my 13mm and just break it free. This one right here. Break it free. Perfect. Next, let's remove this lower caliper slider bolt here. And we're going to flip up the caliper and remove the pads. Let's put this back in a few good threads so we can make sure we don't strip it out. And now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the e-brake cable from the caliper. So when you look at the emergency brake cable, you're going to notice that it has like these little forks on it. There's 3 of them. You could try to either pinch them down with some pliers like this, which might prove to be difficult, or you can use the tool that's actually made for the job, which is a circle and has a little slot in it. That's so you can slide it over the cable, and then it goes up and it pinches in those clips. At this point, you should be able to grab your cable, give it a tug, and pull it up and out of the bracket, and just like that. We'll take this off of here. So next we're going to remove our caliper mounting bolts. To do that, you're going to use your 15mm socket. Leave that in. Move up to this one. There it is. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be opening up the brake system. So you're going to be having fluid come out. Put on your caliper hose pinchers. We're going to remove this bolt. And of course fluid's going to come out, so you want to make sure you keep it away from your brakes. Break it free. I'm going to do this with my gloved hand, of course, because I don't want to get any brake fluid on my skin. It's very bad for your skin. There we are. Fluid's going to come out and go into my collection receptacle. Okay, so we brought our caliper over to the bench because we need to prep it. What I mean by that is we're going to take off the caliper slider bolts here and separate the 2 pieces. You have the caliper portion and the bracket portion. I'll set the caliper portion aside and start with the bracket. When we start with the bracket, it's important to remember that these are caliper sliders, okay, and they need to be able to function. So what I like to do is open it up, make sure there's grease, which there is, but personally, I like a little bit more. Slide it up on there, slide it right in. Do the same to the other one. We're going to continue with the grease. Go right along this area right here, here, and the same on the other side. Next what we're going to do is we're going to put on these brand new tins that we got. You want to take a look at them and you want to make sure that you can tell that there's a flat side and a hooky-doo side. And when you turn it this way, you also have a flat side and a hooky-doo side. So the hook that's off on the side needs to go out and away from the rotor, and the side that hooks up needs to hook up and away from the bottom of the caliper bracket. Slide that in there, just like that. We're going to do the same to all the rest. All right. Just make sure you clean up any grease that might be sitting along the inside here. Move along to the muscle of the caliper. We have the piston area, and then of course these areas. And those are the areas that are going to be hitting up against the pad. So we need to make sure that we put a little bit of lubricant on those, and that's going to help with vibration dampening and noise reduction. All right, let's set this portion of the caliper aside. Now we're going to go back to our old caliper. The reason for that is because we need to take off this portion right here. This is a vibration dampener and you need to have it on the new caliper. To remove it, you can grab right here with some pliers and twist it right off. This just screws right on here, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to wait on this portion. I'm going to screw this on when we're done. I just want to show you what it's for. Let's go back over to the vehicle. So next we're going to install our caliper bracket bolts. We'll bottom them out and then we'll torque them down to manufacturer's specification. Let's torque these to 98 foot-pounds. Torqued, torqued. Let's install the brake pads. Now let's take our caliper and our e-brake cable, and we're going to get these attached. You need to go over this hook and then pull on the cable so you can get this part through the caliper bracket. Slide it in there, it should lock in. Perfect. Put the caliper over the pads and let's install the caliper slider bolts. Just gonna bottom this out. Same for this one. And now let's torque these to manufacturer's specifications. Let's torque these to 19 foot-pounds. Torqued, torqued. Okay, so now we're gonna grab our flex hose and make sure you don't have any of your sealing rings on there. This looks great. If you have any dirt or rust, just make sure you clean it up so you have a nice smooth surface. Next, we're gonna remove our caliper banjo bolt here. We're gonna take off one of these copper gaskets and we're gonna leave one on. Grab that hose, put it through. So we've got our banjo bolt, a gasket, hose, gasket, caliper. We'll line this up and then we can continue. Let's snug this up and tighten it down. Okay, it's bottomed out. Give it a couple cranks. Perfect. Let's remove our hose crimpers. Next, we're going to install our vibration dampener. We'll snug it up. Tight. Okay, let's get this emergency brake cable bracket back on here. So let's remove our bleeder screw cover here. We're going to be reusing it, so set it aside someplace that you can find it. So next we just want to do a brake bleed. So we need to remove our brake fluid cover and we're going to add some because as you can tell by moving the reservoir around, I can't see any around the maximum line. We'll add some .3 to get it up to the maximum line and then we can continue. Reinstall your cap. Okay, so it's time to continue with our bleeding sequence. It's important to remember that there is a manufacturer-specific bleeding sequence for this vehicle, and you'd want to look that up to make sure you're doing it in the proper order. Assuming right now we're only doing this caliper for some reason and not as a pair, we're going to start here. To do that, I'm going to ask somebody to pump up the brakes 3 times. Can you please pump up the brakes 3 times? On the 3rd pump, they're going to hold that brake pedal, and we're going to open up this bleeder screw. All right, here we go. We're watching for air and fluid coming out. You can see all those little bubbles. That's the air working its way out. Okay, I'm going to close it up. We're going to have the person pump again, please. All right, here we go again. Keep watching this, and we want to wait until we see a solid stream of fluid with no air bubbles. Okay, I'll close it up, and we'll go one more time. As you saw, we had a steady stream of fluid coming out and we had no air bubbles. You want to make sure that you keep doing this process until you have no more air bubbles coming out of your system. One air bubble will make the difference between having a solid brake pedal and a spongy brake pedal. Once you've completed your brake bleed, you want to make sure that you continue pumping up your brake until it's firm. Oh yeah. All right. Let's just double check our brake fluid, make sure it's at its maximum level. Perfect. Replace your cap. All right, so it's time to clean down our mess. Put back on your bleeder screw cover. Put your wheel back on. Start your lug nuts. Bottom them out. Now we'll torque these down to manufacturer's specifications, which is 100 foot-pounds. Torqued.